Welcome. If you're a healthcare provider, you know abnormal vaginal bleeding comes up a lot.
Oh, frequently, yeah.
So today we want to clarify things a bit, cut through the noise.
Good idea. It helps to have clear categories.
Exactly. We'll look at the common causes, across different patient groups. Think pregnancy-related, non-pregnancy, premenarchal, and postmenopausal.
4 main buckets. Okay.
Let's jump right in.
Sounds good. Where should we start? Premenarchal.
Yeah, let's start there. Bleeding before the first period.
Okay, so in that age group, the number one cause for pelvic pain and bleeding, it's usually vaginitis.
Vaginitis. Okay. What about intermittent bleeding? Maybe with a discharge.
Right. If you see intermittent bleeding and a foul discharge, you really need to consider a possible vaginal foreign body. That's a key thing to look for.
Got it. Foreign body. And bleeding with trauma.
That's serious. Any bleeding associated with genital trauma, you have to consider the possibility of sexual abuse. It requires careful evaluation.
Absolutely critical. Okay, moving on to pregnancy.
A whole different set of considerations here. We usually base our classification on the last menstrual period.
And right off the bat, ectopic pregnancy is a major concern.
Huge concern. You're looking for that classic triad: missed period, abdominal pain, and some vaginal bleeding.
Those are definite red flags.
Big red flags. Don't miss it.
Okay, what about bleeding within the first 20 weeks? There are specific terms there.
Yes, exactly. So you have threatened abortion that's bleeding, but the cervical os is still closed.
Still closed, okay.
Then inevitable abortion bleeding, but now the cervical os is dilated, it's open.
Open os, right.
Complete abortion is when all the fetal tissue is passed.
All gone. And incomplete.
Incomplete means some tissue is still left behind. That's actually most common between about 6 and 14 weeks gestation.
6 to 14 weeks, okay.
And then there's missed abortion. That's where, unfortunately, the fetus has died, but no tissue has actually been expelled yet.
Nothing's passed. And septic abortion. That sounds serious.
It is. It's a miscarriage complicated by infection. So you'll see pelvic pain, maybe fever, cervical motion tenderness, or uterine pain, and often a purulent discharge.
Needs prompt attention.
Absolutely. Quick recognition is vital.
Okay, let's shift gears. Second half of pregnancy.
Right. 2 big ones here: PlacentaPrivia and abruptio placentae.
PlacentaPrivia first. That's the placenta implanted over the cervix.
Exactly, over the cervical os. The classic sign is painless, bright red bleeding.
Painless. And if you suspect it.
Key point: defer the pelvic exam, don't do it. Diagnosis is by ultrasound.
Ultrasound first, got it. Now, abruptio placentae.
That's the premature separation of the placenta from the uterine wall.
Okay, and how does that usually present?
Typically, it's painful bleeding. Unlike previa, patients often report abdominal or uterine pain, maybe increased uterine tone.
Painful bleeding, okay.
And you might see signs of fetal distress. It's also important to remember that bleeding can sometimes be concealed, not always obvious externally.
Concealed bleeding. So a thorough assessment is needed. All right. What about bleeding after menopause?
Postmenopausal bleeding always warrants investigation. A significant concern is malignancy. It accounts for about 40% of cases.
40%? That's high.
It is. But it's not the only cause. Exogenous estrogens, like hormone therapy, can cause it.
Right.
Hormone use. And another common one is atrophic vaginitis, thinning of the vaginal tissues.
Atrophic vaginitis. Okay. So multiple possibilities, but malignancy is top of mind.
We have to rule it out.
Okay, last category. Non-pregnancy related bleeding. This is in women of childbearing age, and let's assume a normal pelvic exam.
Right. We often call this dysfunctional uterine bleeding, or DUB, though terminology is evolving.
Okay, DUB. What's a common reason for that?
A really frequent cause is anovulatory cycles, cycles where ovulation doesn't happen.
Anovulation. And that leads to?
It can lead to irregular bleeding, sometimes prolonged bleeding, or bleeding between periods, intermenstrual bleeding.
Makes sense. Are there other structural things to think about, even with a normal exam initially?
Well, yes. Even if the initial exam feels normal, you still need to consider underlying causes like uterine fibroids or polyps.
Fibroids, polyps. Okay.
Cervicitis, inflammation of the cervix that can cause bleeding too. And, well, you still have to keep less common things in the back of your mind.
Like what?
Things like malignancy, even trauma, or maybe a retained foreign body, although less common in this group than premenarchal.
Right. Always keep a broad differential.
Exactly.
So it really seems like categorizing the bleeding based on age and pregnancy status is the essential first step.
It truly is. It helps organize your thinking and guides your diagnostic workup right from the start.
Keeping these different causes, these varied etiologies, in mind for each group seems key.
Absolutely. So the final thought, maybe for everyone listening,
Yeah.
how can really understanding these specific categories sharpen your initial assessment the next time a patient presents with this very common concern? Something to think about.